Kum Len and Ablak Gemara. We are up to the Vav Amar Aleph, and we are learning about the concept that a Kohen Gadol has to separate 7 days prior to Yom Kippur. So we're up to the Vav Amar Aleph by the two dots. Mafrishin Kohen Gadol. Says the Gemara, ask the Gemara, Lama Mafrishin, why does the Kohen Gadol have to separate for his wife 7 days prior? Says the Gemara, what do you mean Lama Mafrishin? What are you asking? Kidamrina, we learned yesterday. Ila Rabbi Yechon, according to Rabbi Yechon Kedishle, like he said, we compare it to Maluyim when they dedicated the Mishkan 7 days prior to Aaron HaKoyin had to separate. He had to live in the Mishkan. Or Elish Lakish Kedishle, because he learned from the 7 days, the first 7 days out of the 40 that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven, he had to separate. So what are you asking? Hachikama. The base Lama Pirish. Why did he have to leave his wife? And Rashi explains the question is, he could have taken his wife with him wherever he is, because this particular place that he's staying at, which is called Lishchas Parhedrin, the chamber for the officers, is not really holy. Because if it was a holy place, then he wouldn't be able to live there. Only Malka Beis David were allowed to. So therefore, it wasn't a holy place. So why could he bring his wife there? Taisa disagrees because even though it wasn't as holy, but it still had the status of Machan Levia, and therefore, why would you ask about his wife? It's still a holy place. So he says the question is, why didn't they just stay in the tunnels underneath, which wasn't holy at all? Why did he separate from his wife? So here the Gemara adds, or we learned already a few days ago, says the Gemara, you know why? Because Tanya, we learned Rabbi Yehuda say to Omer, there's another concern here. Shema Timotze Ishte Sofik Nida. Maybe the first way we understood the pshat was that maybe he'll find that she is a suffix, whether she's a nida or not, and she's not permitted to have relations. The yava Allah, and nevertheless he will have relations with her, and therefore he will become tamei. It turns out to be she's a nida, and he won't be able to serve in because 7 days you're tamei. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Up to B'shia Skin, are we talking about a Kohen Gadol who was a Russia, knowing that his wife is a doubtful case of nida, he would still have relations with her? It doesn't make sense. Gemara says, you're right. Shema Yovei al Ishtay. Maybe he had no idea. He thought that she was all right, and so did she. And after they had relations with Timtza, and it turns out to be that Safik Nida. That in retrospect, she was a Nida. And therefore, then he'll be tummy for 7 days. That's why 7 days prior, he shouldn't have any relations. Says the Gemara, they repeated this before Rav Chizik, and he said the following. He said, Keman, who does this actually work out according to? This sounds like it follows Rabbi Akiva. What's the story? The Amar, he says, right now the Gemara assumes if they had relations and then he checked himself, the man, and he found blood, there's no question it came from the wife. She checked herself immediately. The second that they stopped having relations, instantaneously, and she checked herself, he saw down, there's no question that happened while they were having relations, and they're both equally tummy. If, however, they checked themselves afterwards, then it's doubtful whether he is actually tummy or not, because maybe it happened after they finished their relations. So according to Rabbi Kiva, still we treat it as if he was boil nida and he has to be tummy for 7 days. But according to the Rabbanan, no, he's only tummy for the day, maybe, and that's it. He's not tummy for 7 days. So it seems that because the reason why they separate from his wife 7 days is in case that afterwards she checked herself and found out that she was perhaps a nida, and we say, oh, you can't serve in the Beis Hamikdash, follows Rabbi Kiva. This must be, it follows Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara says, Nida metamas boila, that a Nida makes her husband, the one who had relations with her, tamei, not only tamei from now on, but retrospectively the past 24 hours as well. Because we learned in the first Mishnah Nida that when a woman finds that she's a Nida, then everything she touched in the last, we had Machlekes Shammai, Hillel, and the Rabbanan. Shammai said, going all the way back from the last time she checked herself, Hillel said, I'm not worried at all. Dayu Shaiton, and the Rabbanan said, we go back 24 hours. So the most like this. If you follow Rabbanan, they say the husband would be tummy. So what's the big deal? Why can't they have relations? That's what the rabbi said to Rav Chizik. Rav Chizik said back to them, no. There's actually 3 different periods. There's immediately, there is immediately after, and then there's after. That immediately after, everyone agrees, even the Rabbanan, that right after she does that, she checks herself a couple of seconds later and finds that she's tummy, is tummy. The question is, if after she would put her feet in the ground and she had time to wipe herself, and she wipes them after that, that's when Rabbi Kiva and Chum have an argument. But therefore, we are worried that maybe she will check herself immediately afterwards and find that she's tamei, and therefore everyone agrees that the husband is tamei. That's why they have to separate. I feel only if it's a long time later. A long time later means a minute or two later. But if it's immediately after she placed the feet in the ground and they had enough time to check herself, then we say that she everyone agrees that the husband is tamei. From here we learn now also another thing. We know there's a difference, a nida and a zava. A nida is one who has a regular period. She can see consecutively for 7 days. We don't care. The end of the 7 days, she stops seeing. She is tar, but she can only go to the mikveh at night after the 7 days. When it comes to a zava, it's a woman who saw outside of a normal cycle between between day number 11 and between day number 7 and day number 18, 11 days there. She sees then it's outside of a normal cycle. It's called a zava. So if she saw 3 consecutive days, she needs to find 7 clean days. 7 clean days. And then she goes to the mikveh on the 7th day, even during the day, and she says to make sure it doesn't become tummy again. Now the question is, if a man has relations with a woman, turns out to be a nida, and he becomes tamei, does he take on the full status of a nida that he also cannot go to the mikveh till the following night? Or at least in this regard, he can go to the mikveh at the end of the 7 days. And it's an argument. So Abdeda says, Shmamana, seems clearly from here, the fact that we do not allow the kohen for 7 days prior to have relations with the wife must be that boil nida is not like a nida. If the din, because the din is to work in the Beis Hamikdash, in addition to going to the mikveh, you have to wait for sunset. If the din is that the husband has the same din as the wife, and we're scared that he might have relations with her while she's a nida, if they both have the same din, then what happens is that he can only go to the mikveh at night. That means he can only go to the mikveh Yom Kippur by night after the 7 days are over. So the following day, how can he serve? He has to wait for the sun to set. Must be that a boil nida is not like a nida. He can go to the mikveh before Yom Kippur starts. He can go to mikveh half an hour before Yom Kippur begins, and then he has sunset, and that's why he can serve the following day. So Rav Zayz Shmamna, you must say from here that boil nida ain't a nida, does not have the same status as a nida. The toiv will be and he can go to mikveh during the day because if you're going to say that boil nida kinida, if you're going to tell me that someone in relation to nida has the same status as a nida, then Amos Tavil, when is he going to go to mikveh 7 days prior? Must be Belial at night. How did he serve in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur? Head of Shemesh. We need the sun to set. You must conclude that boil nida ain't a nida. That a boil nida is not like a nida. Said that that's the view of Rab Zayda. Comes along and says, I disagree with you. Rab Zidi Minadoy, he says, no. I will say that a boil nida has the same din like a nida, which means he cannot go to mikveh till at night. But you think we mean 7 days? We actually mean 7 days and 1 hour. An hour before the 7 days begin, he already separates from his wife, and therefore that's called day number 1. So day number 7 that you think is really day number 8, and he goes to the mikveh the night before the night of Yom Kippur. He goes to the mikveh the Leil Tess, and then the following night the sun sets, and that's why he can serve. So he says here, we separate him from his wife an hour before Shkia, the day before. Why don't we then say 8 days? Because it's only 1 hour, so we don't count it as as far as what we're saying 7 days. It's not really 7. It's not really 8 days. Okay, so we have an argument whether a boil nida has it in like a nida can only make at night, or a boil nida is not like a sheshes, it's not like a zayda, it's not like a nida, and therefore go to make by day. So I'll ask a number of questions. Maybe I'll ask you question number 1. It says kol chayovit tefillas. Anyone that has to go to mikveh tefillas and begin can go to mikveh even by day, except nida v'yoledes, but a nida and someone who gave birth, it sounds like they are the only ones that go to mikveh at night. But according to you, they should have also added a boil nida, the man involved with the nida. Nida in boil nida loy. It seems only a nida goes to the mikveh at night, and a woman who gives birth. But everyone else can go to mikveh by day. So no, that's no proof. When we say nida, we don't mean nida. We mean we're not limiting only to a nida. Nida v'chol the osi milabuya. A nida and also anyone that became tummy because of her. So it means the husband is included. The nida can only go to mikveh at night. That's not a question on Simi. Okay, we'll ask you another question. Maybe I'll ask you a question. It says about Kedi, someone that had a Kedi, right, had an emission. Kimaga shedes has the same status as somebody who touches a dead shed, a rodent, the 8 shratzim that the Torah says, which means you're tummy for 24 till the following night. boil neither, but then it says, but somebody who has relations with a woman is just like a tummy mace, just like somebody who touches his body tummy for 7 days. Now, in what respect are you trying to tell me that a boil neither has the same din like somebody who touches a corpse? In what way? To tell us 7 days, the Torah says that. So my love, you're probably trying to tell us something new, and that is the tefillah. Just like somebody touches a corpse can go to the mikveh during the day, so too somebody who's boil neither can go to the mikveh during the day as well. So therefore, Rav Sheshes of Zayda is right, and Rav Simi is wrong. Said no, is talking about Tumasa. No, we're not comparing it to when you go to mikveh. We're talking about how long you tummy for. 7 days. Ask the Gemara Tumasa, Behedzik Sivu. Says clearly in the Torah that somebody, a boil nida is tummy 7 days. Eat Tumashiva. High Tumashiva Ksiva says, but high Tumashiva, in both cases it says your tummy 7 days. It said regarding the mace, it says clearly, and regarding a boil nida, it says that if he had a relation with the nida, then the tomb of the nida is on him. And tummy is for 7 days. So it says clearly in the Torah. What's the Brisa telling us here that a boil nida is compared to a tummy mace? Isn't it the time when you go to mikveh? I mean, you go to mikveh during the day, not like the nida herself. Isn't that talking about the mikveh? Second, no. It's talking. Rav Simi could be right that you cannot go to the mikveh till at night. So in what way are we comparing boil nida to a tumas mess for 7 days? You asked a good question. It says in the Torah, I don't need a mission for that, right? Safe Itzachay. The main chiddush is the end. What does it say further on? El shechamor mimenu boil nida. The chiddush is not that boil nida is like a tummy mace. The chiddush is the next part where it says that a boil nida is different than a tummy mace in a certain respect. And what is that? Shemetame mishkev u'moishev. That the law is a nida has a certain stringency and a zava that you don't have by other tumas, and that is if you're a tummy mace, somebody touches a corpse and he's sitting on top of 10 mattresses. So the person himself is an avatuma. The top mattress becomes a rishon latuma. The next mattress that's contiguous to the top mattress becomes a sheni, and so on. And that's the end. But when it comes to a nida or a zav, if she's sitting on the top mattress, all the mattresses, like this week's parsha, all the mattresses suddenly have the same status. They all become like her, a tummy, avatuma. So we're saying here is that a boil nida, a man who has a relation with a nida, is also stricter than a tummy mace regarding these mattresses, but not the full weight of tumah of the law of a nida. It's slightly less than her. What? It's only considered as if they're all the same status as far as food and drink is concerned, but it does not have a capacity to be metame a person or kalim. But that's what the Brisa has to tell you. It's stricter when it comes to what? When it comes to an easy tumah, for example, the tame oichel mashkin, that food and drink, the 10 mattresses, touches the bottom mattress. As far as tummy mace is concerned, nothing will become tummy here because the mattresses are no longer tummy. The top one is a tummy, the second tummy, and it ends right there. But as far as a boil need is concerned, they're all the same status of an abatuma, but they can only be matami food and drink. But if it would have been a real nida, she would be, even if a person touches the bottom mattress, they would become tummy. Okay, so no proof either way. Toshma coming here, the next proof, and here will be clearly. So from here's a clear proof, not like Rav Simi. Tani Rav Chia learned Hazov, the male and the female had a mission. A leper, a male or a female, uboyol nida, the man who had a relation with the nida, or a tummy may somebody touches the dead body. To be lost and beyond. It says clearly here that even a boyol nida can go to the mikveh during the day. The yeled is tfilos and balayla, only a nida, and the yeled is the tfilas at night. Clear there's a distinction between a boyol nida and a nida. So therefore, in our mission over here, it's only 7 days prior, and he goes to the mikveh the 7th day by day, and then he has the sunset, keep it by night. To Yufta, this completely repudiates what Simi said. Says the Gemara, let me ask you a question. If you're so concerned that maybe the wife turned out to be a niddah, let's have another concern. If you're so concerned about his wife, that maybe she'll become a niddah, therefore they shouldn't have any relations. Maybe we should also add another thing. We should also separate him from people that maybe he'll become tamei. Rashi learns, and if you're Shayim learn Pshat, how can you have any people visiting him? What happened? They drop dead while they're talking to him. Suddenly he's in the same room with a mace. If you worry the wife might turn out to be a niddah in middle of relations, then why aren't you worried that a person will die on him while they're talking? Other Rishonim find that highly problematic. We're not worried that person will die suddenly, but rather what we're saying here is that how can you allow kohenim to touch him? Maybe some of those kohenim are tamei mace, or will come tamei mace. Says you want to know why we're not worried about that about a death? You know why? Now we'll give two answers in the Gemara. One answer in the Gemara is tumas hameis hurtri hibetzibur. We had a discussion in Gemara Psachim. If the populace are tamei, majority of the people are tamei. Ish nitchel lepesach sheni. Ish. If they're only an individual person, a minority of people are tamei, do they get pushed off to the second Pesach? But if the majority of people are tamei, they bring in the first Pesach. And the general rule is if it's a communal carbon, and more important is if it's kavua's man, if it's a fixed time, but it has to be brought up. It pushes away Shabbos, and also it pushes away the laws of Tumah. And since Yom Kippur is a fixed time, so then the Kohen Gadol over there, if let's say even somebody dies on him suddenly, or a tamei mace touches him, it doesn't matter. Because Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, the laws of Tumah are suspended when it comes to a community, a fixed time, which is all the Kabbalah Yom Kippur are fixed, and therefore Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. When we say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, we say that the Tumah is only talking about Tumah's Hamesis. Any other Tumah, it doesn't work. If they're all Tamei Nida, or Tamei Zav, or Tamei Zava, it doesn't matter if everybody's Tamei. We do not suspend the laws. It's only Tumah Mace that we suspend, and therefore, because Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, it doesn't matter. So therefore, you can have people coming into him, and even though there's a chance they might die, so they die. And Tumah Hutra B'tzibur doesn't in any way have an impact on the activities of Yom Kippur. That's answer number one. Now, there's a little problem with that, which we'll come to maybe tomorrow. But now, because the problem is that one of the kabbanas that Aaron brings is his own personal carbon. We're going to learn in Pasha Achra, we already had it before the Gemara, he has to buy and purchase his own par, his own bull, and bring his own carbon. So that's not really a carbon tzibur, that's a carbon yachid. And if that's a carbon yachid, why is it we're not worried that somebody might die in him? There's no hutra. Tumah hutra is betzibur, communal karbanis. That's a private one. So Rashi adds, in the way the Ritva and others learn Pshat and Rashi is that even though it's a private carbon, but number one, it's fixed time, but more than that, he cannot do the rest of the activities of Yom Kippur until he first brings his own carbon. It says so first, because all the other communal karbanis hinges on his carbon, then his carbon suddenly takes on the status of a communal carbon, even though it's a private carbon, and therefore it pushes away, Shabbos, and pushes away the laws of Tumah. That's answer number one. Now, why isn't that? Why we know the answer? Because we had the Gemara Psachim earlier. Not everyone agrees that Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. We had another view that in fact Tumah D'chuya B'tzibur. That means it's still wrong to become Tameh, but we don't have a choice. So we have no choice. But if you have a choice, you always have to seek the alternative. Now, if Tumah D'chuya B'tzibur, then why do we allow people to come and say hello to him, or why do we allow people to touch him? Because at the end of even if somebody dies in him, then it's only with great hesitation that we allow the activities to continue. So we should take all the precautions necessary prior. So why aren't we worried? So more answers. Ravina says, I feel the tema of Tumas Hameis is only D'chuya, but Tumas Hameis L'shchicha. The answer is very simple. How common is it for a person to die suddenly? Where Rashi learns, it's very uncommon, or that they touch somebody and they come touching you. Says the Gemara, now that we brought up this idea of Tumah Hutra B'chuya, the Gemara will have a discussion on that. Itma, we learned Tumah Sameis, when it comes to the Tumah of a maze, Rab Nachman is the one who said Hutra B'tzibur, that it's Hutra, that it's completely permitted. Rab Sheish is Amar D'chuya B'tzibur. Sheish, which is halacha, says no, that it's only D'chuya. That even though we do it, but it's great hesitation, and therefore we try to mitigate the Easter. We try to take all the precautions necessary to make sure it doesn't happen, and nothing goes wrong. Says the Gemara. So what the Gemara explains? If let's say in that particular group, there's every week there's another mishmar. There are 24 mishmaras, 24 groups, and every mishmar had 6 batei avos, 6 families. So if one particular one particular family, let's say, has a couple of kohanim that are tamei and a couple of kohanim that are tayr, right? And you're telling me that Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, is there any point at all in saying, what, let the kohanim that are tayr do the avodah today? If you learn that Tumah D'chuya B'tzibur, then of course you shouldn't use the kohanim that are tamei. Use the kohanim that are tayr, because there's great hesitation and reticence that we allow you to use Tumah. But if you learn that Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, I mean, we suspend the laws of Tumah, that makes absolutely no difference which kohanim are the ones who are doing it, the Talmudic ones or the Toradic ones. So says the Gemara, hey, in the same family, you have some kainim kuliyam pligi to turn off it may lovely, even though the one who says tumahutra b'tzibur, according to this version, even though I said tumahutra b'tzibur, it's still not the same as having by somebody who is tired. So even though hutra, okay, there's two ways of understanding tumahutra b'tzibur. One way of saying hutra b'tzibur is, of course, they're tum and everything else, but the Torah said that I'm going to permit it in this particular case. The other way of learning is Tumah Tzibur is I'm going to remove the laws of Tumah completely. There's no Tumah in this case. There's no Tumah. If the dead man falls down in front of him, he doesn't become Tameh. Not that he's Tameh, but we're going to allow him to work. He's not Tameh at all. So this version of the Gemara is that he did become Tameh, but we allow this person to work. So the Gemara says, since the person did become Tameh, and you have other kainim that are 100% Torah, it's still better, according to everybody, it's preferable to use the kainim that are Torah. Fine. Keep plea. Their argument is, let's say the entire family became tamei. Should we say, look, today was your day, tomorrow is your cousin's, but you know what? Maybe we should get somebody from your cousins to come over, and they should, it's a bother to find them, but let's get them as an alternative. And that's where they argue. Keep plea. Nachman said, heter b'tzibur. It's totally permitted that tzibur is their tamei. Why bother getting people from next door? We don't look next door. And Avsheish says, no, it's only the chuya, which means with a heavy heart we allow this. And therefore, if there's an alternative, even though it's a bother, go ahead and seek the alternative. The chuya b'tzibur mahadrin, we look for others. However, ikidamri, another version, afilu heicha diika tahoyrin tameyin. But the second version says, even if they have kainim but are tamei, and you have kainim that toyer, nevertheless, Polig Rav Nachman disagrees. But Amar Avdi Namit makes no difference to me because he learns the other way of Tumah. He learns Tumah means there's no Tumah at all. This is like the Meiri learns in Brachos. There's no Tumah at all. And therefore, there's no advantage in finding kainim that are Torah because there are no Tumah in here. That's what Tumah means. The Tumah was removed. Hashem said, you know what? I'm not going to treat them as Tamdige people. In fact, there's a big machlekes when we say that kainim are allowed to, go to the funerals of their 7 immediate relatives, and there's an argument there if it's Tuchuya Hutra. Now, if you learn to Hutra, so there's another argument. While the kohen is at the cemetery, visiting, if you're going to the levaya of one of his parents or siblings, can he also go to another grave or another funeral that happening at the same time? So if you learn that the laws of Tumah are still in play, but the Torah said, I'm not going to treat it as an Isser, as an Aveira, or as a problem when it comes to your immediate relative, then for sure you're not allowed to go ahead and touch someone else's grave or to go somewhere else. But if you learn that Tumah means that Hashem said, I'm removing all the laws of Tumah. And these 10 minutes you're there, there's no laws of Tumah at all. So then you could touch another dead body because there's no laws of Tumah. So that's the two opinions here in the Gemara. And not even now it's made the whole tumah of Zayin on top. The whole tumah is made with tzibur rachmana shayu because he said that Torah completely permitted it, and therefore go Torah completely permitted it. Therefore, you don't have to bother to seek out any Taharidic people. It's all the same. Omar Avshei says, she says, how do I know that I'm right? How do I know that we say that tumah is only the chuya, not hutra but the chuya, and we always try to seek alternatives? I'll bring you proof. The Tanya we learned, the Kohen was standing, and he was bringing minchasa oimer. On the second day of Pesach, we bring a barley offering. And that's called the oimer. It's a flour offering, minchasa oimer, together with some animals. The nitmaz biyodai, and the flour offering became tamei in his hand. So what do? So he turns around to the Kohen and says to them, bring another one in this place. Bring another one. But that's the only one that you have. Then we tell him, be shrewd, don't say anything, we'll continue with the work. Why? Because it's a tzibur and the tumah is permitted. Now, if the word is tumah hutra, why do you have to even seek an alternative? Tumah hutra means it's permitted, so you just use the aimer. When we say tumah hutra, we don't only mean, by the way, if a person became tamei, also if the animal became tamei, the carbon became tamei, it's a tumah hutra. So why don't we say over here, the aimer turned out to be tamei, continue. No, we say go look for another one first. Doesn't that prove Ketani mean learned? However, aimer, he says, we look for an alternative. Doesn't that prove that tumah is the chuya? Amar Nachman said, no. A mincha is different. Why is a mincha different? The way a mincha is supposed to be, that certain mincha, a communal mincha, which comes together with a carbon in the morning and the afternoon, that mincha gets totally burnt on the mizbech. But other minchas, like the minchas of Omer, you take a kimitza, you take a handful and scoop it out, and you put it on the mizbech. But the rest has to be eaten by the kohen. These are the two parts of a mincha. So Nachman says, even if you say tumah hucha, the way I learned, only as far as the carbon is concerned, but nobody's allowed to eat it. When the carbon Pesach was brought on the first Pesach, when the majority of people were tamei, they could bring it, but nobody was able to eat it because tumah hucha b'tzibur does not enable you to eat it. So this mincha here, because the idea of the mincha is that part of it goes in the mizbech and the rest is eaten by kohenim, even if you follow the rules of tumah hucha, if we go ahead with the carbon, no problem, but nobody can eat from it. And if we have a choice to go ahead and find an alternative barley that's not tamei and bring that one up, and this way people will be able to eat from the kohen will be able to eat the balance of the omer, that's much better. So the reason why we're looking for alternative is not because we have a problem with the tumah, it's because we want them to be able to eat it. I will admit, where we're talking about a mincha with his leftovers and has to be eaten, then seek an alternative. May say, one piece, I'll ask a question. It says, if a person was bringing minchas party, actually we'll stop here because people were not here and probably didn't go any further. So we'll continue tomorrow morning with Hashem, normal time, 8.
In the kollel?
In the kollel and on Zoom.
Okay.
What 8:15?
8:15.
8:15.
Like always.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
For the kohen, if you know there's a really old cemetery that anything in there is going to be just bones, would that mean that theoretically a kohen would be able to walk in there?
No, because bones, we learned, if most of the bones of a body of a skeleton are there, it's
that's
common.
right. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
good luck, everybody.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.